Hello and welcome. It's Wednesday, the 2nd of April. You're tuned in to our 10 a.m. newscast here on Arirang TV. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. Amid increasing inter-Korean tensions, President Park Geunhye asks foreign diplomats in Seoul to do all they can to help the two Koreas achieve a peaceful reunification. Early investigations show the suspected North Korean drone that crashed into a South Korean border island on Tuesday was little more than a model airplane fitted with a camera. Plus, Chile orders an evacuation of coastal areas as an 8.0 magnitude earthquake around 80 kilometers off the coast triggers a tsunami alert. Our top story this morning, despite the rhetoric and artillery shells flying over the inter-Korean border, President Park Geunhye isn't abandoning her hopes for a unified Korea. At an annual dinner with ambassadors and top diplomats in Seoul on Tuesday evening, the president asked what they can do all they can, to achieve a peaceful reunification. She also explained to them in more detail the proposal she rolled out last week in Germany, referring to her 3-year economic innovation plan that was announced earlier this year. The president called on the diplomats to help Korean companies expand overseas, create more jobs and increase foreign investments. North Korea has been launching verbal attacks on President Park Geun-hye in recent days, denouncing her proposal last week to lay the groundwork for unification. Calling for more civilized dialogue, the South Korean government is urging North Korea to be prudent with its words and actions. Hwang Sang-hee reports.
South Korea slammed North Korea on Tuesday for launching verbal attacks on South Korean President Park Geun-hye. Through its Nodongshinmun newspaper, the North denounced the South Korean leader for her recent comments on North Korea's economic difficulties, calling her derogatory names like an eccentric old maid and an idiot. President Park's remarks were part of her grand reunification speech given last week in the German city of Dresden, where she laid out her plans for bringing the two Koreas together. Pyongyang had pledged to end all cross-border slandering earlier this year, and Seoul's unification ministry said the remarks put the regime's sincerity into question.
Such actions by North Korea raise suspicions about whether its so-called important proposal for mending inter-Korean ties was just an empty shell.
In Dresden, President Park proposed 3 ways to bring the two Koreas together: increasing humanitarian aid, holding more inter-Korean family reunions, and assisting in North Korea's infrastructure projects. Experts say the recent resumption of verbal attacks can be interpreted as a no to the president's offer.
But if we see it in the long term, it is very threatening for Kim Jong-un regime. This approach can be make the separation between common North Korean people and Kim Jong-un, the political elites.
One way to solve the latest escalation in inter-Korean tensions may be for the Koreas to hold another round of high-level talks, as they did in February.
We should always talk and keep the communication channels open, if for nothing else, to test North Korea's intentions and to monitor for any signs of change and to look for opportunities.
While talking things out may be the best way to solve a conflict, experts add that South Korea should not be naive about its partner's intentions. But dialogue may not be an option for now, as the South Korean government says it does not plan on engaging in high-level talks anytime soon. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
South Korea is conducting a probe into an unidentified drone that crashed into one of its border islands during the cross-border exchange of artillery fire with North Korea earlier this week. The drone is suspected to have taken photos of Seoul, Baengnyeong-do Island, and even the presidential office. Our Myung-kil reports.
Early investigations show the unmanned drone that crashed into a South Korean border island on Monday is from North Korea. The presidential office of Cheong Wa Dae presumes the unmanned vehicle to be from the north, as it was found after North Korea fired scores of artillery shells in the waters south of the northern limit line as part of a live-fire military drill. South Korea's defense ministry is continuing its analysis of the drone and is devising contingency plans to shore up the country's air defense. The light blue drone was found on Baengnyeong-do Island just south of the disputed Western Sea border between the two Koreas. The drone is 183 centimeters long, almost 2.5 meters wide, and weighs around 12.7 kilograms. There was also a small digital camera installed on its body.
Drones can be used for reconnaissance missions with cameras attached. If the unmanned vehicle is loaded with explosives, it can also be used to bomb targets.
U.S. experts analyzed several photos of the drone's wreckage that were published in South Korean media and said the drone appears to be well past its prime and could even be considered an antique. Military and intelligence authorities say the unmanned vehicle is known to be similar to another drone that was collected from Paju City in Gyeonggi-do Province, south of the demilitarized zone on March 24th. South Korea's military intelligence authorities are collaborating on the investigation. Myung-kil, Arirang News.
Now, one of Washington's top officials on Asian affairs is accusing China of sticking to its tried and tested but ultimately unsuccessful policy of dealing with North Korea. U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs Daniel Russell says the Chinese government is torn between two priorities in terms of its North Korea strategy: stability and denuclearization. He adds moves made by the US, South Korea and Japan to defend against the risks posed by Pyongyang's behavior and its nuclear program are not steps China wants to see. Identifying a positive, however, Russell says the leadership in Beijing seems to realize now that their own national security interests come before North Korea's nuclear program. The US official is urging China to take further steps to convince North Korea that it has no other choice but to take steps towards denuclearization. Efforts to put up a statue honouring comfort women in an Australian city are gaining traction, but the Japanese government is trying its best to hinder plans. A spokesman for the Japanese embassy in Australia told the Sydney Morning Herald that plans by Korean and Chinese communities to commission the statue are, quote, misguided. The statue would honour women forced into sexual servitude by the Japanese military during World War II. The community is expected to submit a request to establish the statue to Strathfield City Council this week.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. Arirang News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers $15 billion. Korea and the United Kingdom have agreed to enhance their bilateral cooperation in the financial sector. The agreement was reached Tuesday at a South Korea-UK financial forum in London, which was attended by Financial Services Commission Chairman Shin Jae-yoon, Lord Mayor of the City of London Fiona Woolf, as well as officials from financial authorities and banks from the two countries. Both sides shared their views on consumer financial protection, jointly exploring the African market and cooperating in the fields of financial supervision. South Korean officials also suggested channeling loans from international financial institutions to help North Korea. The one-day forum was a follow-up to President Park's visit to Britain last year. Now to some alarming news about Korea's snowballing debt problem. The country's household, government and corporate debt amounted to over $3.5 trillion as of the end of last year. That's almost 3 times larger than the total scale of the nation's economy. The Bank of Korea said Wednesday that the ratio of the debt to the nation's GDP stood at around 260%. The figure has been on a steady rise since 2004, spiking in 2008 to around 250% when the nation was hit by the global financial crisis. But on the other hand, there are some encouraging signs that the Korean economy is kind of picking up steam. The nation's exports rose to their second highest mark in March. The Trade Ministry attributed the increase to growing global demand. Hwang Jie has the figures.
The export-reliant Korean economy is gaining momentum toward a stronger recovery as advanced nations boosted consumption of Korean products last month. Korea's Trade Ministry said Tuesday that the nation's exports rose 5.2% in March from the same period a year earlier to over $49 billion. That is the second highest mark on record and faster growth compared to a 1.5% rise in February. Exports to the U.S. jumped 17% in March from the previous year, while those to the European Union rose 15%. Korea's exports to the U.S. in particular slowed in the first 2 months of the year due to harsh winter weather, with the rate of increase remaining in the single figures.
The world economy is on the recovery and the momentum is getting stronger. So the second half of this year, the exports of South Korea is expected to grow faster.
Still, experts add that the slowing Chinese economy and the impact of the slowdown on global financial markets could cloud the positive outlook. By-product mobile communication devices such as handsets soared over 30%, with shipments of automobiles rising 16%. Korea's imports, meanwhile, reached $45 billion last month, up 3.6% from the previous year, helped by an increase in purchases of consumer goods. The trade surplus came to around $4.2 billion. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Now, more positive news about the Korean economy because retailers in Korea are feeling better about the pace of the nation's economic recovery. Business sentiment among them for the coming months has hit a near 3-year high. Korea's Chamber of Commerce and the Trade Ministry say the country's Business Survey Index for the second quarter jumped to 113. That's up 9 points from 3 months ago to its highest level since the third quarter of 2011. A reading above the benchmark 100 means optimists outnumber pessimists. The index has been on the rise for 4 consecutive quarters now. Improved conditions were projected across the board, especially in the semiconductor and machinery sectors. Now, accusations are flying around a California courtroom as 2 of the world's biggest electronics firms resume their long-running patent battle. Making its opening statement Tuesday, Apple said Samsung copied the iPhone to figure out how to react and compete with it. Apple is seeking to ban sales of several Samsung phones, including the Galaxy S3. Apple's lawyers say the company deserves about $2 billion for the infringement, but Samsung's lawyer said Apple was merely seeking to making up for losing its lead in the smartphone market. The core of Apple's argument is that it revolutionized consumer electronics with the iPhone back in 2007 and risked nearly everything in the process. Apple says Samsung took the easy way to success, copying many of its features and making billions of dollars in the process. The trial is expected to last until early May. Now it's time to take a look at the international headlines we're following at this hour. We're going to turn it over to our Eunice Kim standing by at the news center. Very good morning to you, Eunice. Now, a massive magnitude 8.0 earthquake has struck off the coast of Chile. What's the latest there?
Yeah, hi, Mark. That powerful earthquake has been upgraded to an 8.2 during the course of this newscast, and it struck the northern coast of Chile. And according to the U.S. Geological Survey, it was very shallow. It hit at a depth of some 10 kilometers below the seabed. It was centered some 86 kilometers northwest of the Chilean mining port of Iquique, and it's an area prone to earthquakes. And what you're seeing there is file video from a 6.7 earthquake in a similar area last month on the 16th. We're hearing of 2 meters tsunami waves hitting the beaches now, and the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center has issued a tsunami warning for all of Latin America's Pacific coast that includes Chile, Peru, and Ecuador. Evacuation orders have been issued for low-lying areas of the Chilean coast. And turning now to some other news, NATO foreign ministers have suspended their cooperation with Russia, adding that there could be no business as usual after Russia's annexation of Ukraine's Crimea. The suspension would apply to practical civilian and military cooperation, though a door to dialogue will be left open with the NATO-Russia Council, which handles security issues and joint projects. Meanwhile, Ukrainians have been hit with a huge hike in their gas bills. Russia's Gazprom announced it will charge some 43% more, scrapping a discount previously negotiated with ousted Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych. Gazprom says Ukraine's unpaid gas bills to Russia now stands at $1.7 billion. A congressional hearing was underway in Capitol Hill this morning, where U.S. lawmakers grilled GM's chief Mary Barra on why it took 10 years for the auto giant to recall vehicles with flawed ignition switches that killed at least 13 people. With less than 3 months under her belt as GM's chief executive officer, Mary Barra extended her sincere apology to everyone affected by the massive recall and promised GM will now do the right thing. She also said she found disturbing employee statements that suggested cost-cutting may have played a factor in discouraging a prompt response to fixing those faulty ignition switches. Meanwhile, GM's recalls continue, with the total number of cars recalled nearing 7 million this year alone. It called back some 1.3 million vehicles earlier this week to fix a problem in their power steering. And more than 3 years after the historic earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear reactor meltdown, the first batch of residents of Fukushima have received the all-clear to return home. The evacuation order was lifted midnight on Monday local time in the Miyakoji district, which is 20 kilometers from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant and at the edge of that exclusion zone. The first lifting affects some 355 residents. Around 138,000 Fukushima Prefecture residents still remain in temporary housing. Several communities remain as ghost towns. And consuming fruits and vegetables every day is not only good for your health, but it could also extend your life. This according to a study by scientists in the UK who found that people who had 7 servings of fruits and vegetables a day can cut their risk of death by 42%. Researchers followed data from more than 65,000 adults over a 7-year period and compared their nutrition information to mortality data. They found that a diet rich in fruit and vegetables, with an emphasis on the vegetables, can act as a defense against cancer and heart disease.
Well, thank you very much, Eunice there. Now to the polar opposite of fruit and vegetables, because hamburgers and French fries have become a popular menu option here in Korea for children, but also for adults alike. As you might expect, this kind of diet is having an effect on the nation's waistline and general health, our Paulie reports.
Fast food restaurants have soared in number in recent years and become a popular meal destination for those on the go. Local fast food chain Lotteria had some 1,100 stores nationwide as of 2013, a 24% jump compared to 3 years earlier. Overseas chains like McDonald's and Burger King have also grown in number, as more and more people are reaching for burgers to fill their appetites, despite knowing it's not very healthy.
I don't think about the calories because I'm very active.
I worry about the calories because I'm a woman, but usually I'm cool about it when it comes to eating hamburgers.
However, experts are advising consumers to think twice before ordering. The Korea Consumer Agency recently analyzed the contents of trademarked fast food burger sets. Let's take a look at the calories. Burger King's Whopper meal topped the list at over 1,100 calories. This is almost half the daily requirement of 2,600 calories recommended for men between the ages of 19 and 29. McDonald's Big Mac meal fall with just over 1,000 calories, and the burger sets of Lotteria and KFC came in at around 900. Sodium levels also approach daily requirements. A man in his 20s is recommended no more than 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day. KFC's meal had the most sodium content at over 1,400 milligrams, followed by McDonald's at 1,200 and Loteria and Burger King at around 1,000.
Consumers should check nutritional values carefully before eating hamburgers if they want to maintain a healthy appetite, as even one set contains a high amount of calories and sodium.
Experts advise that children in particular should refrain from eating hamburgers too often, as the calories and sodium content exceed their recommended daily intake. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
And a good Wednesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the ongoing controversy over Kim Yeon-a's silver medal in Sochi. And in the latest news, a scientific paper was written as an evidence that Kim Yeon-a deserved to win the gold medal. Now, the 32-page paper written by an Italian physicist compared the scores of the top 13 skaters by the 9 judges. And according to the research, Adelina Sotnikova and Yulia Nemlishkaya had the highest deviation amongst the judges, proving that they were scored too high. And concluded that Kim Yeon-a should have been scored 217.60 instead of 219.10, and Sotnikova should have been scored 214.56 instead of 224.59. And now moving over to the MLB, where the league's latest video replay system was already a huge hit in the opening day. With all the video replays being reviewed at the Major League office in New York, 2 of the 5 challenge calls were overturned without any arguments from the managers. With the review taking less than 3 minutes each, many were satisfied with the new technology in the MLB. And now moving over to some Tuesday night's KBO action as the Nexen Heroes crushed the Tucson Bears 9-3 with the SK Wyverns all over the LG Twins 13-8, and the Samsung Lions rallied back to beat the Hanwha Eagles 6-5. Meanwhile, with the Kia Tigers playing their first game at their new stadium, they took on the NC Dinos, who went into their first game of the season. And of course, in the game here on the mound for the two teams, 2013 Rookie of the Year EJ Hawk for the NC Dinos and Kia Tigers send Yang Young-jung. And what a pitcher's duel here as EJ Hawk throws 7 innings, giving up no runs on 3 hits, while striking out 7. And a brilliant start for Yang Young-jung, as well as he pitches 8 innings, giving up no runs on 5 hits, while striking out 9. When the 8th inning, men on first and third, Lee Bum-ho grounds one to the pitcher, but a costly error here scores Lee Dae-hyung, and with Asensio coming to save the game, Kia takes this game 1-0, your final score. And now moving over to Game 3 of the Men's V-League Championship between the Samsung Hwajae Bluefangs and the Hyundai Capital Skywalkers. With the series at 1 game apiece, the Samsung Hwajae Bluefangs look to get the advantage in the series as they absolutely dominate the Skywalkers on the offense all throughout the night, as Leo Martinez leads the way for the Bluefangs once again, putting up 32 points as the Bluefangs take this match in straight sets 3-0 and are now 1 win away from another championship. And now finishing things off with Tuesday night's AFC Champions League group stage results as Guizhou Rene jumps all over Ulsan Hyundai Tigers 3-1, with FC Seoul and Hiroshima drawing 2-2. So with that said, that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Well, today's weather is going to be a repeat of yesterday's. Afternoon highs in most regions will be remaining above 20 degrees Celsius. And sky will stay mostly sunny, but clouds can move into the nation as we head into the afternoon. So we're expecting another warm and sunny day today, and I hope you could make the most of today's weather condition, because tomorrow the top temperature will go back to seasonal averages, dropping 7 to 8 degrees lower than today. And here in Seoul, it will only rise to 14 tomorrow and 12 degrees Celsius on Friday. And it looks like there's a light rain in the forecast in the Seoul metro area tomorrow afternoon. With that, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The afternoon high in Seoul will rise to 22, and Daegu and Gwangju should top out at 23 respectively, and Busan will top out at 19. Now for other regions, it looks like down on Jeju will hike up to 19. Daejeon and Dokdo will reach up to 22 and 14 respectively, and Mount Keungang will top out at 14. Well, that's all I have for you at this hour, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Well, that's all for now. We'll be back at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.